This happened a week ago. I had just graduated college and moved back to my old neighborhood to live with my grandpa. I needed to save some money while looking for a job. The first night felt calm. I settled in, surrounded by the creaky old house. I could hear my grandpa telling stories in the living room. He kept talking about the empty house across the street. I listened closely, but I didn't believe him. He's just being dramatic, I thought. He went on about missing kids and strange shadows. They just felt like stories. I figured he thought I still believed all that nonsense. The days went by, and then strange things started to happen. One day, I was at the kitchen window when I saw something outside. A shadow flitted across my vision. It moved quickly, and I froze. I didn't see where it went. I tried to shake it off, but it crept into my mind. Then the lights began to flicker. Only sometimes, but it made me uneasy. I told myself it was just the old wiring in the house, or maybe the weather was off. I didn't want to think more than that. One evening, I was washing the dishes when I heard whispers coming from the forest. It was a low sound. My heart raced. I glanced out the window, but it was too dark to see anything. Just trees, just darkness. I called for my grandpa, but he didn't answer. I felt something was seriously wrong. Finally, I asked him about the stories. Why did everyone leave that house? I sat across from him, tension building. He narrowed his eyes and said, "Some say it's cursed. Others just tried to forget. But I remember." His voice trailed off, and I stared at him. I wanted to laugh it off, but something in his face made me pause. He wasn't joking. I backed away from the table, feeling dizzy. My mind was racing, and I wasn't sure what to believe. Then came the night when everything changed. I was watching TV alone, lost in the show. Suddenly, the room turned cold. An icy chill crawled up my spine. I caught a glimpse of a figure outside the living room window. My heart pounded. "Grandpa," I called out, but he didn't reply. Before I knew it, I was drawn to the window. I stared into the dark. That's when I heard a voice whisper, "Why are you still here?" I turned around, but nobody was in the room with me. I felt panic rising in my chest. The shadows felt alive, pressing against the walls of my mind. I rushed back to the window, heart racing, but all I saw was darkness. The whispers began again, louder this time. I thought of my grandpa's stories, and doubt crept in, chilling me far more than the evening air. Something was watching. I felt it deep within, and panic tightened its grip. My thoughts raced, trapped between childhood memories and the chilling reality of now. And the worst part? I didn't know how to escape it. I hardly slept that night. Every creak of the house felt like a warning. Every whisper from the trees seemed to carry a message meant only for me. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind filled with images of the empty house across the street, haunted by my grandpa's stories. Morning came, but sunlight did little to chase away the shadows in my mind. I decided I needed answers. I got dressed and walked around the neighborhood, trying to find someone who could tell me about the house. The streets felt strange, more silent than I remembered. I knocked on the door of a neighbor I hadn't seen in years, Mrs. Hargrove. She answered, her face etched with lines of worry. "Oh, it's you," she said, as if surprised to see me. "I heard you moved back." As we talked, I gathered my courage. "What about the house across the street?" I asked, keeping my tone light. "What happened to it?" Her expression changed instantly. "Don't talk about that house," she said. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It brings bad memories. Just stay away." I pressed on, driven by a curiosity I couldn't shake. "But why, Mrs. Hargrove? What happened?" Her eyes darted toward the window, as if expecting something to appear. "It's better if you don't know. Just be careful." With that, she closed the door, leaving me standing there, drenched in the weight of her words. Determined to find out more, I returned home. I pulled out my laptop and started searching for information. My fingers flew over the keyboard, but the results were scarce. It was as if the house and its secrets had been buried on purpose. Then I stumbled upon an article dated years ago. It spoke about a family that had lived there. An odd family, they said. After their disappearance, no one dared to move in again. I felt a chill run through me. Their names were faded like ghosts in the text, but one stood out, Marla. That name struck a chord, but I couldn't remember why. Just as I leaned back, lost in thought, the lights in the room flickered again, drawing my attention. Then the whispers returned, calling my name softly, urging me to look outside. Heart pounding, I stepped to the window. The cold air swept over me, and through the blur of falling leaves, I saw a figure standing in front of the empty house. It was a girl, pale, with dark hair that fluttered around her. She seemed to be staring straight at me. "Who are you?" I whispered, but she didn't answer. Instead, she pointed to the front door of the house. A wave of dread washed over me. Each step toward the door felt heavier than the last. I felt like I was being pulled into something that I couldn't fully understand. Everything. My head screamed at me to run, but curiosity gripped me tighter. Just then, the front door of the empty house creaked open. A shadow moved inside. That's when the whispers turned into a chorus, drowning my thoughts in chaos. I was about to turn away when the girl lifted her finger, revealing something glinting in the light. I needed to know what was happening, but at that moment, I realized I wasn't just watching. I was part of this story, and I was terrified of what came next. I felt the chill of fear grip me as I hesitated, staring at the girl. Her eyes were locked onto mine, a silent invitation that felt oddly urgent. The door behind her swayed slightly, as if inviting me in, but the whispers had grown louder now, swirling around me like a tempest. I took a breath, my pulse racing. It was just an empty house, I tried to convince myself. Just a house. But Mrs. Hargrove's warning echoed in my mind. I could turn back. I could forget about the girl, the door, the house, but something about her, maybe it was the glint of metal in her hand, held me captive. With shaky legs, I stepped outside. The air was thick with tension, and as I crossed the street, the crunch of leaves underfoot felt like a drum announcing my march towards something unknown. The girl didn't move, just pointed to the house as I approached. "Who are you?" I asked again, louder this time, desperation creeping into my voice. She remained silent, but her gesture was clear. Whatever was inside that house, she wanted me to see it. The door creaked louder as I reached it, the wood worn and warped. I paused for a moment, debating whether to turn back, when a gust of wind blew past me, almost shoving me forward. I reached for the doorknob, my hand trembling. It turned easily, much to my surprise, and the door swung open with a dull thud. Darkness spilled out, curling around me like a living thing. I peered inside, but my heart sank. The place looked more like a skeleton of a home than the haunted remnants of a family. Dust danced in the faded light, and cobwebs clung to the corners. Everything felt stagnant, like time had stopped here. "Marla?" A voice called softly from the depths of the house. My breath hitched at the sound. It was a voice I didn't recognize, yet something about it tugged at my memory. The name from the article? The girl's name? "Marla!" The voice came again, louder and sharper this time, echoing down the hallway. The girl outside seemed to flinch at the sound, her eyes widening as if she couldn't bear to hear it. I stepped inside, barely registering the threshold crossing. The cold air radiating from within sent a shiver down my spine. I was pulled deeper, drawn toward the voice that called for Marla, genuine and urgent. With each step, the whispers turned chaotic, like a bevy of voices arguing, some warning me to get out, others beckoning me to stay. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the room to my left. I jerked my head in that direction, my instincts screaming at me to leave. But before I could react, a figure emerged from the shadow, a tall shape moving briskly across the threshold, blocking my path. My heart raced. Someone was in the house. I backed up instinctively, but I couldn't tear my gaze away from the figure. That's when I realized it wasn't just a person. I could see now, the dark hair, the glint of metal in the dim light. The girl's reflection caught my eye. She stood frozen outside, hands pressed against the glass, silent. I was trapped in a web of mystery, and with dread pooling in my stomach, I realized I might have awakened something that was meant to stay buried. The figure stepped closer, the shadows flickering around it like it was part of the darkness itself. I tried to convince myself it was just a trick of the light, but the wide stance and the way the figure moved told me it was real, and it was blocking my way out. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat echoing in my ears. "Who are you?" I managed to stutter, voice shaky and uncertain. The figure paused, and I caught a glimpse of a face. Cold blue eyes stared back at me, an intense look that made the air feel heavier. It was then that I noticed the silver blade glinting in the girl's hand, partially hidden in the folds of her clothes. My stomach turned, and a primal instinct kicked in. I should run, I should scream, but terror held me like a vice. I was frozen, half turned to bolt out of the house, half anchored by curiosity. The voice calling for Marla echoed again, urgent but far away now, almost as if it was trying to reach through layers of time and space. "Marla!" It was sharper this time, slicing through my panic. "What does that mean?" I whispered, feeling my pulse quicken in response to the mounting dread. I shifted my weight, ready to flee, but the figure stepped closer, blocking my path with eerie calmness. "Marla is trapped," it said, voice low and haunting, "just as you are." I shook my head. "No, I need to leave." But before I could move, the girl's eyes, those same eyes I had seen outside, flashed with a strange sorrow. She came closer, and I noticed the way she mirrored the movements of the shadow, as if they were connected. I blinked, and then she was in front of me, her expression frantic. "Please, you don't understand," she begged, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have to go." The urgency in her tone ripped through my fear. "Why? What's happening?" I asked, desperation creeping back into my voice. "Marla," she said. Again, but the name was now a plea, drenched in anguish. Her gaze darted toward the shadowy figure, and I followed her stare. Suddenly, the air thickened with danger. The figure let out a low growl, an inhuman noise that made my blood run cold. I filled my lungs with air, readying for flight, but the girl caught my arm. "You can't." "Why not?" I hissed, pulling away. "That's not the Marla you think," she shouted, just as the figure lunged toward me. I stumbled back, heart racing, and turned toward the door. The sound of breaking glass shattered the tension. I whipped around to see the window shatter behind me, the girl outside stepping through the jagged shards and into the room. Then, everything went dark. I blinked, disoriented, the world spinning as fear engulfed me. It seemed as if I was caught between dimensions, half in the house, half lost in shadows. I could still hear the voice calling for Marla, stronger now, echoing all around me. "Get out!" the girl shouted, but her face melted into darkness, and I felt a pull so powerful it knocked the breath from me. Someone was in the house, and now I was part of whatever nightmare had been unleashed. I gasped as the darkness tightened around me, a suffocating blanket that made it hard to breathe. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I felt paralyzed, caught in a web of shadows. The voice, Marla's voice, echoed louder, pulling me towards something hidden. Suddenly, a flicker of light broke through the black. I squinted, trying to make sense of the shapes forming in the haze. The girl from before stepped out of the shadows again, her face illuminated in streaks, looking like a ghost pulled from a dream. I ushered more air into my lungs, shaking my head as if to wake myself up from this nightmare. "Listen," she urged quietly, eyes darting around as if the dark might consume us again. "I know it's confusing, but you have to trust me. Marla isn't safe. She's trapped in another place." "Another place," I repeated, still trying to process her words. "What do you mean? What happened to her?" "Something took her," she said, her voice trembling with fear. "But it's also trying to take you. It knows you're here." Before I could respond, a deep rumble shook the very air, vibrating through the floor around us. The shadowy figure materialized again, merging with the dark like an amorphous mass. Its growl echoed off the walls, and I could see its eyes glinting with malevolence, locking onto me as if I was its next prey. The girl stepped in front of me, positioning herself between the figure and me. "We can't let it take you. We have to—" "Do what?" I interrupted, fear mounting in my chest. "What can we possibly do against that?" Her gaze softened a moment before the urgency returned. "We need to reach Marla. She's the key. If we find her, we can stop this." I didn't understand how finding Marla could help us escape the nightmare that surrounded us, but the desperation in her voice pushed me to keep talking. "Where is she? How do we find her?" I think she's trapped in the place where this all began, the garden," she said, glancing back at the figure that now prowled closer, eyes glowing with hunger. "That's where the link is strongest. We have to go now." The shadow lunged again, and this time I felt the pull of its dark power threatening to swallow me whole. I reached out, grabbing the girl's hand. "Let's go." We bolted toward the broken window, shards of glass crunching underfoot as we dove through in a spray of light and darkness. I could feel the weight of the shadows pulling at my legs, trying to drag me back. "Run!" she shouted again, and I sprinted, heart pounding, praying we were heading to some form of safety. Then, as we neared the edge of the property, I realized something was wrong. I glanced back to see the figure standing in the window, its eyes fixed on us, unblinking and malevolent. That's when I saw it. Marla's figure, barely visible in the foreground, trapped behind a shimmering veil in the garden. A chill ran down my spine. "Marla!" I screamed, the name spilling out of me before I could think. But the moment hung in the air, pregnant with a question. As I moved forward, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, and I understood. Time was running out. What awaited us in the garden? I had to find out, and it might cost everything. I rushed toward the garden, the chill in the air growing thicker, as if it were alive and pulsing with anticipation. The shimmering veil swayed like a thin curtain caught in a breeze, hiding Marla from view. I could feel the knot of dread tightening in my stomach. "Wait," the girl called, pulling me back slightly. "We need a plan. We can't just run in there blindly." I nodded, trying to catch my breath. "What else can we do? We have to get her out." She hesitated, biting her lip. "There's a way to reach her, but it won't be easy. The shadow feeds on fear. If it senses us panicking, it will attack." I glanced over my shoulder. The figure was no longer in the window. A sudden surge of panic washed over me. Where did it go? "There," she yelled, pointing to a dark shape creeping through the garden's edge. The monster was sliding between the trees, moving closer. Panic threatened to take hold, but I forced myself to focus. "Okay, what's the plan?" "The link to Marla is through that veil," she said, her voice steadying. "If we can reach it together, we might be able to pull her through, but we have to stay calm." I gripped her hand tightly, calming myself with a few deep breaths. All right, on 3, we run for the veil. She looked uncertain, but nodded. 1, 2, 3! We sprinted forward, the ground crunching beneath us. I dared not look back, but I could feel the shadows slithering around my ankles like cold fingers trying to pull me down. The veil sparkled, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. "Marla!" I called again, desperate to break through whatever barrier was holding her. "We're coming! Just hold on!" As we drew closer, a terrible growl erupted from behind us, reverberating through the garden like thunder. I could almost feel its breath on my neck. Without thinking, I pushed forward, pulling the girl along with me. Just as we reached the shimmering veil, it fluctuated. "Now!" I shouted. We dove through together. The sensation felt like slipping into a freezing lake. The air we were breathing shifted, becoming thick and heavy. I emerged on the other side, gasping for air. Marla stood there, eyes wide with fright. "What took you so long?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Hang on!" I yelled, but the dark figure was right behind us, its claws reaching through the veil, stretching toward me with terrifying intent. Then the garden around us began to twist. The once vibrant flowers wilted, curling into themselves, and the trees seemed to lean in closer, closing us off. Marla was still trapped in place, her eyes locked on mine, pleading for help. "Keep moving!" the girl shouted. "We have to find a way out." "Where?" I cried back, desperation clawing at my throat. She pointed toward a bright light that pierced through the dense shadows. "There! We have to get to the light!" With a new rush of determination, I grabbed both girls' hands and pulled them toward it. The shadow's growl thundered loudly behind us, filled with rage. I could feel its presence looming closer, but the light seemed to promise safety. As we sprinted, I can hear the monster trailing right behind, its dark whispers merging into an ominous chant. "Faster!" I shouted. But I worried. Would the light be enough to protect us, or was it yet another illusion leading us deeper into darkness? We had to find out. The darkness around us shifted, twisting the reality I had known. The light ahead pulsed, drawing me in with a strange allure. I squeezed the girls' hands, urging them forward. "We can't stop. Just hold on tight." As we ran, I stole a glance back. The shadow loomed larger, a mass of darkness hungry for us. My heart thundered in my chest, and I cursed my curiosity for bringing me here. "Keep going! Don't look back!" the girl yelled, her voice strained as we pushed on. Marla stumbled, but I quickly steadied her, keeping us all moving. I remembered her bravery earlier, how she had clung to hope when everything felt lost. Now the tables had turned, and I needed to be her anchor. The light flickered. "I can't!" brighter this time. I could see its warm glow reflected in Marla's fearful eyes. "I can't!" she gasped, struggling to keep pace. "Yes, you can! Just a little further!" I encouraged, feeling my own resolve wavering. Just when I thought we were unreachable, we burst into a clearing. The light enveloped us, washing over our skin like a warm tide. But instead of safety, I found something else. My pulse quickened as I noticed the ground beneath us shift, the vibrant colors of the garden washing away into stark grays and browns. The flowers stood wilting, petals crumbling. "What's happening?" Marla cried. The girl tightened her grip on my hand. "It's reacting to our fear. We have to stay firm." With a surge of panic, I glanced back at the encroaching shadow. It was pouring into the clearing, spreading like ink blotting out a letter. "What do we do?" I shouted, my voice cracking under the pressure. "There!" the girl pointed to an archway made of intertwining branches and flowers that had somehow escaped the dark. "If we can reach that, it's a way out." I nodded, a flicker of hope igniting within me. "Let's go!" Just as we moved, I felt a sharp tug at my ankle. I collapsed, hitting the ground. The shadow clawed at my feet, its icy grip seeping through my shoes. "Pull!" the girl screamed, grabbing my arm. Marla rushed to my side, helping to tug me free. But the more we pulled, the harder the shadow clung, wrapping around my leg like a vice. "Go! I'll hold it back!" I nearly shouted as I struggled against its hold. "Get to the archway!" "No way!" Marla exclaimed, panic flashing in her eyes. "We won't leave you!" The shadow hissed, and I felt its anger pulse through me. "Do it, now!" I roared. With a deep breath, the girl pulled Marla away, forcing her to run. "We'll get you out, I promise!" I tried to rise, pushing against the dark wrapping tight around me. I dared a glance at the girls. They were heading toward the archway, but I realized they wouldn't make it without knowing I was safe. Then, everything went dark. The light flickered and dimmed, swallowed by the creeping shadow. I felt the grip around my leg loosen, not due to my efforts, but because the shadow was retreating, as if afraid of something more powerful. My heart raced as I searched the darkness. "Marla!" I yelled, but my voice echoed back, swallowed by the weight of the void. Was I too late? That's when I saw it, a faint shimmer ahead, a glow pushing through the shadows. It flickered like a star in the night. Hope swelled within me. I had to reach it. I pushed myself up, wincing as the remnants of the shadow faded from my leg. The glow beckoned me closer, and despite the fear gnawing in my stomach, I willed my feet to move. Each step felt heavier than the last, the darkness looming just behind me, like a predator closing in on its prey. As I neared the shimmer, it elongated into a thin beam, revealing intricate patterns swirling in the air. It was mesmerizing. I reached out instinctively, my fingers brushing the light. Instantly, a surge of warmth coursed through me, pushing back the chill that the shadow had left behind. But my moment of solace was short-lived. A low growl echoed around me, guttural and menacing. I turned quickly, the light fading slightly as I looked back into the void. The shadow wasn't finished. It was regrouping, readying itself for another attack. Desperation clawed at me. "Marla, the girl!" I yelled, but my voice felt swallowed again by the darkness. I took a deep breath, shaking off the panic. I had to stay focused. I could see the glow deepen, almost beckoning me. In my heart, I felt an urgency. Was it calling me to help Marla, or was it just another trick of the darkness? I hesitated, caught between the safety of this light and the unknown fate of my friends. Then I remembered how I'd felt when I tried to keep Marla strong, urging her to keep going. I could feel that same fire igniting in me now. I had to make a choice. I sprinted towards the glow, determination replacing fear. Just as I reached the source, it blossomed into a blinding light, enveloping me completely. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the radiance. I could feel the power pulsating through me, and with it, a clarity washed over my mind. This light sensed my fear and transformed it into strength. Suddenly, I became aware of the shadow's form. It wasn't just darkness. There were figures within it, flickers of people, trapped and reaching out in silent cries. My heart raced even more as I recognized faces. Neighbors, old friends, people I had long forgotten. They were caught in this nightmare, just as I had been. "No!" I shouted, the words of protest spilling from my lips. I couldn't leave them. I reached deeper into the light, feeling an ancient energy course through me. "Let them go!" I cried out. The light surged brighter, stretching like tendrils, wrapping around the shadow. It fought back, snapping at the edges, a battle raging between light and dark. As the warmth expanded, I could hear the voices faintly, a mixture of fear and hope. Suddenly, a figure broke free from the shadows, a boy, his face familiar. It was my childhood friend, Adam. "Help us!" he shouted, his voice thin and distant. "Hang on!" I yelled, desperation turning into action. I pushed every ounce of willpower into the light, focusing on my connection not just to him, but to all the people I cared about. The light flared again, pushing the dark back. But I could see it wasn't just about me anymore. I had to save them all. With the weight of their fear on my shoulders, I yelled, "Everybody, hold on to hope! We're not done yet!" And as I channeled all that I felt, the light rushed ahead, and the shadows exploded in fury. As I drove forward, I started to realize this was just the beginning. I felt the pulse of the light, a rhythm that resonated deep within me, promising victory against the darkness. Yet, as the last echoes of the shadows faded back, I understood that this was not the end. The weight of fear and uncertainty lingered in the air, and the faces trapped in shadow still haunted me. The warmth enveloping me flickered, and I took a moment to breathe. I looked around. The beam of light reached far into the void, giving some clarity to the chaos. Adam stood just beyond its edge, pale but somehow radiant, and even though relief surged through me, anxiety quickly followed. "Are you okay?" I called to him, feeling my heart race with worry. I think so," he replied, his eyes scanning the darkness. "But there are others. They're still lost." I nodded, the reality of our situation crashing down on me. It wasn't just us. The darkness still clutched at so many souls. "We have to find them. We can't leave anyone behind," I insisted. As I turned to move deeper into the light, an icy chill swept past me. A ripple of shadow surged, and I felt a new presence lurking just beyond the glow. "Stay close," I warned Adam. My instincts screamed that we were not alone. The light flickered again, and I strained to see through the growing shadows. That's when I saw a figure emerging, its edges sharp and ghostly, more solid than any specter I had confronted before. The closer it came, the more familiar it looked. Suddenly, realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. "Marla!" I exclaimed, but my voice faltered in disbelief. She was here, caught in the shadows as if they were tangled vines. Her eyes were wide with fear and confusion, and my heart shattered seeing her like this. "Help me!" she cried, her voice breaking. The shadows wrapped around her limbs, holding her tightly. I felt my breath hitch. "Hold on, Marla!" I shouted, stepping forward instinctively. "I won't let them keep you." I reached out with both hands, channeling everything I had into the light once more. But as the brightness surged, so did the shadows, fighting back harder than before. "No! Stay away from her!" I yelled, and the light flashed in response to my command. It spiraled and then burst into a brilliant display of power that pushed the shadows back, momentarily releasing their grip on her. Marla fell toward me, and I caught her just as the darkness roared in frustration, swirling like a storm that wanted to consume us all. I pulled her close, trying to share the light as the shadow figures writhed around us. We stood together, the three of us, Adam, Marla, and me, each one connected not just by the fear that bound us, but by mutual strength. I could see, behind Marla, shapes emerging from the dark, a blurry assembly of faces, now edging closer to the light, seeking freedom. Yet, just as I felt hope rising, a loud crack split the air. The ground trembled beneath us, and the light faltered for just a fraction of a second. That brief moment shifted everything. "Get ready!" Adam shouted, and in unison we prepared for whatever was to come. Then everything went dark. I took a sharp breath, my heart racing. The blackness was suffocating, but I could still feel the warmth of Marla and Adam beside me. "Stay close," I whispered, though fear clawed at my throat. The shadows felt as if they were pressing against my skin, but I could still sense their chaos swirling around us, almost hungry for our fear. "Where are we?" Marla's voice trembled, and I felt the panic in it. "What happened? I can't see anything." Before I could answer, a sudden burst of light ignited around us.
It was blinding, illuminating the labyrinth of shadow that surrounded us. The figures from before flitted in and out, their faces grim and pleading, reaching out toward the light. They looked familiar. Friends, neighbors, people I thought I had completely forgotten. The realization made my heart ache. The light flickered again, revealing a path before us. "We have to move," I urged, gripping Marla's hand tightly. "If we stay here, we won't make it out." Adam nodded and guided us forward, moving steadily. The ground beneath us crackled with energy, and I felt the shadows writhe angrily behind us, desperate to keep us contained. "Keep your eyes on the light," he called, and we pressed on together, the pulse of our fear acting as a catalyst for the glow that seemed to sense us. But just as we thought we could find a way out, I heard a commotion behind us. A deep growl echoed within the dark, and my blood ran cold. "It's coming!" I shouted, urging Marla and Adam to run faster as I glanced back. The dark figure furiously closed the distance, shadows swirling like smoke around it, hungry and relentless. The path began to narrow, the glow flickering uncertainly. I could see the remnants of the garden on either side, once thriving flowers and trees, now fading into the gloom, as if their spirit had been stolen by the darkness. Desperation clawed at my insides. And just when we thought we were escaping, when the glow ahead seemed to beckon us with open arms of safety, it twisted into a flurry of darkness. "No!" I gasped, stumbling to a halt. The glimmering light warped, spinning into something chaotic and dark, and I realized we were losing the connection to it. "Remember what we figured out," Adam shouted. "This is about fear. Don't let it take hold." I steadied myself, forcing down the panic. "Don't look back. We
"Can't let it win!" I yelled back, hoping to chase away my own doubts. We surged forward, and the light stabilizing underfoot pushed back against the encroaching shadows. But it also felt increasingly elusive, fading as we ran. "What if we're trapped?" Marla asked, her voice tight with anxiety. "No," I insisted, my resolve hardening. "We have to believe." With everything inside me, I called out to the faces I recognized flickering in the shadows. "You're not alone! We will free you!" The whisper of shadow thickened, enveloping our voices, and I felt another shift in the air. It was an electric tension, as every flicker of light fought against the growing darkness. "Marla!" I shouted over the chaos. "Remember who you are! Focus on the hope!" "That's it!" Adam exclaimed, mirroring my energy. "We're not afraid!" I felt a rush as we linked our hands tighter, the act amplifying the light around us, forming a barrier against the darkness. The figures emerged more clearly now, a chorus of hope tethered to our defiance. With each surge of belief, the shadows recoiled. We pressed on, the light pushing in front of us as the specters from the darkness faded with every determined step. Just ahead, I glimpsed something glimmering on the horizon, a return to the garden with its sun-drenched colors, pulsing with life. "Together!" we shouted, yelling against the fading shadows as we made one last sprint toward the garden. But just as hope surged, the shadow lunged one final time, the air swirling violently around us. "Get back!" I screamed, forced against the boundary, feeling it shatter around me. The light erupted in a dazzling burst, and with it, everything went silent. I blinked into blinding brightness, breathing in warmth and life that felt foreign after the suffocating grip of dark. I felt Marla's hand slip from mine as the space around us solidified. I turned, adrenaline coursing through me, to find Marla and Adam standing firm beside me, blinking in surprise. "Where we—" Marla started, her voice trembling. But the weight of the experience bore down heavily in the air, where the garden bloomed before us, yet the remnants of shadow flickered across the edges of existence. We were free, but had we truly escaped? I could still feel the breath of darkness lingering just beyond the garden, as if waiting for a chance to return.
I looked into Marla's eyes and saw the same uncertainty reflected in Adam's. Did we end it? I hesitated, knowing that neither of them had an answer. But as I turned to gaze into the shadows where the house once stood, I couldn't shake the reflection of those trapped faces. The echoes of their pleas still haunted me, an unfinished story tethered between light and dark. All around us, the beauty of life thrummed with possibilities, but within me, a lingering question grew. What truly lies beyond the veil of shadows that stubbornly fades in and out of our reality? I moved closer.
To Marla and Adam, each of us contemplating our next step. We had survived, but so much lay unresolved. The corners of my mind tinged with fleeting echoes, reminding me that freedom may not always mean escape. I had to keep searching, even if the answers might remain forever out of reach.